time for our power panel. Fox News contributor Lisa Booth, former communications director for the Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid, John Summers, and Fox News contributor, former senior Trump campaign official David Bossie. Good to see you all.
Thanks for having us.
So, Lisa, is this presidential harassment, as the commander-in-chief says?
Well, I'm feeling a little left out being the only one in New York, but I think, look, it's Congress's job to provide oversight. So I think when the Oversight Committee has said that they're going to look at things like security clearances to make sure protocols are being followed, that's fair. But then when you get into some of this Russia stuff, look, the Mueller investigation's been going on since May of 2017. The Senate investigation just reached its 2-year mark. The House already concluded theirs. So I think if the House Intel Committee continues to investigate this after it's already been thoroughly investigated, that enters into presidential harassment territory, or President Trump can use that term, and I think it would be fitting. So, and I think a lot of Americans would feel that way as well.
John, why is it, I'll grant you that we don't know yet what's going to be in the Mueller report. We should all wait for that on all sides and carefully weigh the facts when we get the report. But when you worked in the Senate a long time, how is it that we've heard that they've got a paragon of bipartisanship, nonpartisanship in the Senate Intel Committee, and their chairman, Richard Burr, is saying tonight to CBS News, after 2 years, we've found no collusion.
Well, shocking that a Republican committee didn't find anything.
No, I got to stop you there. I'm going to
Republican-
let you talk, but no. This has been a committee that Mark Warner, the top Democrat, and Richard Burr, the Republican, are very much in sync. This is not a partisan Republican committee. That's not true. I just want to, you got to be fair. Mark Warner has worked side by side with Richard Burr as a Democrat, and they have found there's no collusion. How do you answer that?
At the end of the day, though, Mark Warner is not the chair of that committee. He doesn't control that committee. And that's what we saw in the House as well, right? So we're seeing a whole new round of investigations in the House because what was done before wasn't adequate. You know, if the Republicans hadn't abdicated their responsibility of actually exercising oversight, a lot of these questions would have been asked and answered at this point, and we would have an argument for saying, hey, let's just move on. But that's not the case.
Well, we all know that all these questions have been asked and answered. There's been no collusion found whatsoever. We're going to find out in the Mueller report. I think the Democrats are going to be incredibly disappointed because when Mr. Mueller has to say there was no Russian collusion, then Congress is going to have to pivot, and then they're going to be harassing this president, and they're going to have overreach. And the American people are going to reject it. And I think this president's going to come out on the other end much stronger for having gone through it.
Harassment, like calling for a birth certificate, for example, and spreading racist rumors about, you know, the president of the United States. I mean, that's harassment.
I'm sorry.
This is oversight.
There was no congressional committees.
Come on.
There was no congressional committees issuing subpoenas over any of the things that you just talked about. There was no congressional investigations. There was no committees holding hearings and bringing forth witnesses. This is going to be harassment of the Trump organization, of the Trump family, and of the president.
Lisa, answer John's question. He said, look, when Donald Trump was a businessman, it sounds like he was harassing President Barack Obama.
Well, we're also talking about a congressional committee using taxpayer money and also, you know, using their resources and time to investigate the president, which I said I think it is fair on some merits and some of the things looking into things like security clearances. Congress does have an oversight role, and so that's their job to do. The point I am making is you look at something like the Russia investigation, which has been almost completely exhausted. And to David's point, I do think that President Trump is going to see a gain in popularity depending on what the Mueller investigation comes up with. That there's nothing there because what the American people have been being told for so long now is there's collusion, there's collusion, there's collusion. We've not seen any evidence of that. So if the Mueller investigation concludes that there's no evidence of that, then what happens to all these people who have been saying this for so long?
David.
I do think it'll hurt them.
She's exactly right. Expectations is a dirty word in this town. You have to meet them, okay? And Mueller's not going to meet the collusion expectation for the Democrats. And then Congress, through their authority of subpoenas and depositions and all of the rest of the hearings, they're going to overreach, and they're not going to meet their expectations, and the American people are going to see the politics for what it is.
All right, I want to get John in here on another topic. Let's talk a little bit about Virginia. John, I was struck by this tweet by journalist Matt Laszlo, who says that Dick Durbin, one of the current Senate Democratic leaders, was asked about this chaos in Virginia. What do you think about what's happening, specifically with Justin Fairfax, Lieutenant Governor, sexual assault allegations? I don't live there, Dick Durbin responded. I'm not getting into that. I don't think any of the senators on the Judiciary Committee lived anywhere near Brett Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh, but they were digging into his high school background.
I love Dick Durbin, as you might expect, but I'm disappointed by that answer. To me, it's very simple. Northam has to resign. We need to, as I said with Kavanaugh, have these allegations against Fairfax investigated, and let's see what comes out of that. And the AG's got to resign.
Lisa, what do you think? Democrats, if they don't live anywhere near the person who's accused, then you can't comment anymore. What do you think about that standard?
Well, I mean, there's a clear double standard in the way that Republicans versus Democrats are treated, but I actually don't think Northam is going to resign. And the reason being is, as you know, in Virginia, governors only serve one term. There is no really anywhere for him to go politically after he serves his term because Senators Kaine and Warner aren't going anywhere. So his political career was likely over anyways. But everyone keeps talking about 2020 and the impact that this will have on that. Look at 2019. This November, there are statewide elections for the state legislature, in the state of Virginia, Virginia House of Delegates and the state Senate. So those are the races to watch and what impact this might have
David, as you
in
know,
those upcoming elections.
Virginia has been a battleground, been a so-called purple state, but really in the Obama years has trended Democrat. Hillary Clinton carried it in 2016. Go add to Lisa's point about what this might mean.
Lisa's exactly right. The state Senate is going to be, and the House of Delegates, it's going to be a big election this November. And what is going on right now is going to pay dividends for Republicans this November. The woman who brought forth this abortion bill a couple of weeks ago has single-handedly destroyed the Democrat Party in Virginia, and they're going to lose seats because of that bill and because of the fallout of
John,
these three.
Give you a final word. We got a minute left. The point David's making and Lisa made about the political climate in Virginia, which has been trending Democrat, might it go Republican, and the idea that this abortion issue has gone extreme for Democrats. Give you a chance to answer that.
They've got to find the right way to talk about it. First of all, this is definitely a communications issue.
Right way to
that
talk
they've got.
What about the right way to treat children, though?
Right.
Well, absolutely. But when you go back to this racism thing, which is the biggest thing that they're actually
more
facing
than a
right now.
communication issue, just to clear
Right,
that up real quick.
Well, but let's also be clear about what that bill
a
actually
life
is. When
issue.
it's not
a life issue.
True. Well, let's give John a chance.
Yeah, but it's not this whole ripping the baby out as the president
Actually,
has
it is.
described.
Do you know-
No,
do
it's
you know
not
how
at
third
all,
term-
Lisa, and
Do you know how third-term
better
abortions
than that.
happen? Third
That's
trimester
not what
abortions
it is.
happen.
Okay.
What
They
they're
inject
talking-
a baby head
Quickly.
or their heart with digoxin, and it forces the baby, into a cardiac arrest. The
Okay.
baby dies. The mother carries that baby in her womb for a couple of days,
Lisa,
and then gives birth to a stillborn baby.
She
Just
made
so
her
you're
point. I
aware
do
of
want
what
to.
happens.
Okay, so she laid out the facts. I got less than 30 seconds.
That's just actually not how it works. The way
that's
they're
how
the way
third
they're
trimester
looking at it,
abortions happen.
the way they're looking at it is more along the lines of a hospice approach, right? So if a baby is born and it's not in good health, then just like you would with an older person who's in hospice.
Why not try to resuscitate the child and see what happens? Why not give the child a chance to see if the
You
child
mean
will survive? You're
let
taking
family
away
members
any
make the
opportunity for
decision?
that child
You
to
mean,
live.
Lisa, let
We're not
family
gonna
members
decide
make a
this issue
decision
tonight.
like you do with other people in hospice?
Okay.
That's
David,
what we're
final
talking
point.
about.
David, final.
But this is what Lisa's exactly right. What this bill meant, and the communications problem is talking about murdering a baby after it's been born. This is ridiculous and it's monstrous.
All
and
right.
the Democrats in Virginia are going to
Guys.
pay for it.
David, John, Lisa, appreciate spirited discussion
Thank you.
on both issues.